So every time I would come to work, I was either hungover, still tripping on acid, and or something like that. But it was such a boring job that it was acceptable because all I had to do is make copies of architect plans and.
Do you think you fucked up your brain on acid? Do you think you ever fucked up your brain on it?
No.
No.
I think if when I was doing it, I was.
Was there any point you ever heard Howard Stern talk about his acid trip?
No.
Howard Stern talked about it on the radio, and I guess he did like a giant dose of acid, like way too much, and he was like all fucked up for like a long time. Like he was hearing voices, and it was just like a real psychotic episode. And that's that's a thing about psychedelics. So you got to make sure you don't fuck around and do too much. Like Dennis McKenna had an experience like that too. Dennis McKenna, who's Terrence McKenna's brother, they're both famous psychonauts, psychedelic pioneers in the 70s. They went to Brazil, and he took like way too much mushrooms, and he lost his mind for like 2 weeks. Like he couldn't communicate with people, And the last time I did DMT, I was fucking whacked out for like 2 solid weeks. Not totally, you wouldn't guess if you were talking to me. I was totally normal. I did shows. The shows went great. I went to work. I did Fear Factor. That went great. Nothing got fucked up but my head was like, I felt very, you feel like your consciousness is like in a foundation. Your consciousness is like, it's like, boom, it's solid. This is me. Good morning. You wake up in the morning. Hi, honey. Kiss your girlfriend. Brush your teeth. This is fucking solid. When I did the DMT, my consciousness was like a little tiny raft in a fucked up ocean. Right. It's like, like nothing seemed, like I kept having these ideas that cars were going to come launching themselves over the boundaries and hit my car while I was driving. And I'm like, why am I thinking this? I'm like, what is this about? And then I realized that what it was this idea of worrying about possible disasters was my ego's way of regaining ground and letting me know that it has to have a certain amount of real estate in reality, and that if you want to do crazy psychedelics and go into other dimensions and communicate with entities and reevaluate your whole position in the world and humankind's position with each other, that's all well and good, but there's some real shit in the world that the ego has to be there for. And the ego was like sending me a message. Dude, what if a fucking car launched itself out? You better be fucking paying attention. Like there was a certain amount of where it was such a mind-blowing experience that there was like a wrestling match going on in my head between my ego and between this new information and accepting all this new information from the psychedelic trip and incorporating it into the way I look at everyday life, and like, you think about someone who's like a shaman, they're living in the jungle and they're all at peace in the world. They're not calling people douchebags on the internet. There's a certain amount of enlightenment that if you achieve it, it's going to make it very hard for you to function in the regular world. And I think that's one of the most important things about psychedelic trips. Like there's a lot of cripples in the psychedelic world and in the weed world too. There's a lot of people that they're so into these experiences that they can't incorporate it into their everyday life. And they're almost crippled in their everyday life because of it. And no psychedelic experience is worth anything unless you can take what you've learned from it and enhance regular life. Enhance your communication with people, your relationships with people, enhance the way you look at the world, enhance your career path, the kind of friends you hang around with. Unless it can enhance you, the reality is we live in this world for 8 hours a day or 12 hours a day or however long you're awake. This world, this concrete world is real. And you have to manage your way through this. And psychedelic drugs make it very difficult to do that if you want to have a regular job.
I think psychedelics, the main thing with psychedelics is it opens up a door. And like in the past, like I've been offered DMT, but I won't do it because like when I first did mushrooms, that opened up to a door of things I never thought of or saw before, and it's never going to go away. It didn't damage my head, but now that I know that exists, I know it's there. And so when acid did the same thing, but there's a point where I have to go, okay, does this door need to be open? Is this anything positive with this door being open? And some drugs are like that for me, because like salvia was the closest to the point where I was like, okay, that is a scary door that I opened up, because that just pretty much made everything seem fake. Like
Right.
it was like, this world is fake, everything's fake. And I know that's not true, but it opened up that door where I'm like, okay, that's almost too much of a door. I shouldn't have opened up that door.
Right.
I'm never going to be
Right.
able to get back that thought of not knowing that was there.
I think we're pretty much saying the same thing.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
like if you can't bring it back and incorporate it into your everyday life, and like sometimes you open up these doors, you're like, what the fuck am I going to do with this?
Right.
And then your everyday life is just whacked out.
Some
you know?
people like going back to that
Yeah.
fake world so much, though, and that's where it gets fucking scary.
Well, you know what? I think most of those people, their real world is not so hot.
Right.
You know, and that's one of the reasons why it becomes an escape, you know, and I don't think it should be an escape. I don't think you should ever escape reality. You're here. This is life. You know, life can be a magical, fucking intense, fantastic experience if you manage it correctly. But if you just want to escape all the time, I've got to think that you're probably fucking up in this life, and that's imbalanced. You know, the people that always want to go, and it's like the same thing with like video games. Like, remember I told you about this dude? There was this dude who used to be the manager at the Comedy Store that was addicted to EverQuest, just completely addicted. 8, 10, 12 hours a day, lost everything, lost his job, lost his life. He just was so pale. You would see him, he was so pale. Looked like he never saw sunlight. Like he would order in food and never leave the fucking house for days. And he came down to the Comedy Store one night and he goes, it's so weird. I'm so good at making money in my online life and so bad in my real life. Like, he was starting to realize that, like, he's a fucking loser in this life because he's excited and puts all of his passion and energy into this other life. But that's just really because this other life is a new and exciting thing. You know, a new and artificial thing, and he can control it from his computer without dealing with emotions and dealing with all the, you know, the fears and anxieties that the real world presents. But the reality is, if we lived life in a computer screen and we were offered the real world as a video game, the real world would be so much more fantastic. You know, we just don't think of it as being fantastic because we're so goddamn used to it. You know, if we lived life in a computer monitor, and that's how you were when you were born, and then one day someone said, you know, hey, we've developed this new game that allows you to go outside. And you go outside and you can actually get laid, and you can go and have a real drink, and you feel it, and you do a real shot of Jack Daniels, and you go, holy shit, this is real, I can't believe it. You know, you go get laid for real, and you drive a car for real. You'd be like, dude, the real world is the fucking shit. You would never want to play video games. The reason why we want to play video games is because it's a world that we can control completely independent from all the pros and cons of this solid world, completely independent of the emotions and the insecurities and all the shit that we all experience, but we don't like. But the reason why we experience insecurities and anxiety and anger, these are all like little chemical signals to guide you towards a proper life. Like, what I found in life, most importantly, more than anything, is that the way that I'm the most happiest is if I'm putting out positive energy. I'm putting out positive energy to people, to friends, positive energy on stage, positive energy with my writing, my work, with anything I'm doing. It's all friendly and positive and happy. And if you do that, you know, you can have a fucking fantastic life. The problem is, it's just difficult to do. It's hard to keep your shit together. It's hard not to lose your temper. It's hard not to, you know, be obsessed with something and get sidetracked. And that's what, like, gambling addictions and masturbation addictions and all that shit, that's what that's all about. It's like you're trying to distract yourselves from all the pain of being a human, you know? I mean, I think fucking Hunter S. Thompson had a quote like that. Like, man making himself a beast to get away from the pain of being a man. I forget exactly what the quote was, but something along those lines. Like, we distract the shit out of ourselves because the game of life is fucking hard to do, man. Just like a video game is hard to do. You know, you remember, like, back when I used to play Quake, like, all the time. I played Quake, like, hours and hours a day. And you and I played Quake online. We played against each other. And, like, you can tell the difference between someone who's playing all the time because you get really good at it. You know where the rockets are going to go. And I was sticking railguns up your ass and electrocuting
Yeah, I think you won 120 games and I won one.
Yeah,
maybe
it's
not even one.
totally not fair. And believe me, there's dudes online that would do that to me, just rape me.
Right.
Why? Because they had put so much time into this fucking crazy game, they would get good at it. But since you hadn't put time, how frustrating was it? So fucking
zero fun.
So you didn't want to play,
Zero
right?
fun. No.
You want to shut it off.
Yeah.
That's exactly the same as life. If you get good at life, the game, then it's fun as fuck. It's awesome. You know, if you're Leonardo DiCaprio, life must be the shit. You know what I'm saying? He's starring in movies, driving a Ferrari,
Getting the
banging
finest
supermodels.
cock.
What? He's got a gigantic fucking mansion. I mean, he's a movie. It must be so fun for him. But not everybody could be Leonardo DiCaprio. So if you're the fucking garbage man who's, you know, came home and his wife is fucking the newspaper guy, you know, that's not a fun life.